What's up, guys? This is Pete, aka Characters, and we are back with another episode of the Carrot Poker Podcast. This is probably the second episode or something of 2018. To my shame, I've been pretty busy, mainly just private coaching and stuff like that, but I'd love to get some more exciting content for you guys soon. And speaking of which, we have an exciting guest on the show today, which is actually a good friend and student of mine, called Mike. What's up, man? How's it going?
How are you, Peter? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. I think one of the reasons I'm so happy that you volunteered to come on this show, and one of the reasons that I kind of jumped on it, was that I think you are like a really good example of the kind of the average grinder who just had the determination to want to be a professional poker player. Like, so many guys start off with the will to be the professional poker player who aren't naturally rich or blessed or friends with one of the best coaches in the world or anything like that. And they just don't make it. But you have, and you've been a pro now for how long?
Over a year.
Over a year. How's it been? How's the first year of being a professional poker player worked out?
I think like everything else, it has its ups and downs. But I just think I really feel it's just the mindset. You know, it's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it's going to be. So you just have to kind of roll with it.
Yeah, and I like that because so many podcasts and stuff, the guests are always like really successful ballers, or it's the other extreme and it's just someone with big dreams or someone who wants to like be the world champion or whatever. But here we just have yourself, a guy who has put in a ton of hard work, does it professionally. You play 2-5 as your main game, right?
Correct.
And you've been doing it for a year, which is fantastic, and it goes to show that you don't have to aim for like the stars to be successful out of poker and get all the bonuses like the freedom and doing it for a living and all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, it's great to have you on the show. We're going to start off, we're going to do a little interview today, and I'm going to ask you questions just so we can get a perspective on what it's like doing this for a living. So for anyone who works in an office or a factory or whatever and wants to transition to poker being your job at some point, I want to get a reality check for them. I want to find out what it's like, how it feels day to day, and what it's like to just live that life as someone who is a hard-working professional poker player. Because that's what you are, right? You're not like, you didn't win a massive tournament and get lucky and get sponsored, or have a cool hat or a funny voice and get sponsored.
A true real-life grinder.
Yeah. Man, maybe you should just get a gimmick. You should just have like a ridiculous, like hide in your hood like Phil Lack, or I don't know, right? get a stupid mask that you wear so that you can just get sponsored and don't have to work so hard anymore.
That'd be a good idea.
That might work. Anyway, let's get to the hard grafting truth about what it's like to do this professionally then. So do you play online or is it exclusively live?
I just play live.
And what was your rationale for wanting to be a live player specifically?
It was one of those situations where I'm a little bit older, so I didn't really get on the online train, so to speak. I've always played live. There's always been casinos close by, so I've been playing, recreation since I was 18, so over 20 years, and I've always played, as a hobby, 1 to 2 to 3 days a week. So live was just always more familiar to me than online. And I'm kind of I'm very skeptical of online because I always feel there could be colluding or there could be cheating. So I was always like fearful of that. But I know in live, it's a lot harder. So I always chose the live avenue.
Okay, fair enough. Did you ever play like even before casino games were really popular and people played in like back rooms and some guy had a gun just in case or anything?
No, I never got the luxury of playing something like that. No Wild Wild West for me.
Oh well. So what then? Obviously, you've not always been a professional. You've had your own ways of making money before that, jobs, businesses, whatever it may be. So what were you doing before, and what made you decide that you wanted to take this hobby and actually turn it into something that was going to be the main source of income?
So I was in the hospitality business. I was in basically corporate America, and the grind was really getting to me working 60, 65 hours a week, 5 or 6 days. And don't get me wrong, I did really well for myself, but I was just not happy. So poker was always one of those things that, who doesn't want to try to do it for a living? It's like golf, right? If you could be a professional golf player, wouldn't you do it? So that always kind of intrigued me. And then, over a year ago, I basically went into my boss's office and we didn't see eye to eye on things, and it was just best to part ways. And I did. I said, you know what though? I've always wanted to really, truly do it. I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I just, next day went to the casino and just that's how it's been ever since.
Cool. So it's just like suddenly a clearing in the sky, and the circumstances were just finally right for you to dedicate everything to this game instead. That's cool.
Yeah, basically.
By the way, if I was a professional golf player, I would be really unhappy because I used to play when I was a kid and I found it so difficult, that game. I'd like smash up the course with my 7-iron or whatnot out of frustration. So I don't know how well that would go for me, but yeah. But yeah, you're right. I think everyone does that lure of freedom and just like playing a game all the time. It's definitely like has a big magnetic pull on everybody who plays poker recreational, and most of them, at least at the back of their mind, I think, have some idea that they want to do this professionally. But most of them don't. Most of them fail. And you were asking me just earlier on before we started recording, like, how successful are students? And I said, just less successful than I would want them to be, or I could make them if they didn't give up, right? And that is the thing. Like, you've talked to me a ton watching regs come and go in your games, watching people bust their bankrolls, things like that. What's allowed you to succeed that separated you from those others around you who try for a while, they're doing it for a few months, they go broke, inevitably? What makes you stand out?
No, I'm sorry. I really feel it's more than one thing. Like, first off, I just think we talked about earlier, just being honest with yourself. I feel a lot of the players that I play with, a lot of them are businessmen. There are some young guys that try to make it as a pro, but all of them, for the most part, like, always, I got unlucky. They never talk about, playing bad. It's always about, how does he make that call on the turn?
Right.
Yada, yada, yada. So first and foremost, whoever's listening, you got to be honest. And you have to be honest with yourself. Second off, bankroll management is huge. I know, like, all the forums out there and all the things on poker, no one ever really talks about that. But bankroll management, you need to have at least, 50 buy-ins, whatever game you're playing, at least. Plus, like we talk about, have your own, separate money with bills, because you're going to go on a downswing. It's not always going to be great. So you have to, have the finances, to cushion that. I think third is discipline. Like, when you're running bad, don't play, hands you normally wouldn't play because you want to get the money back really fast. And then I guess lastly, honestly, you've been a tremendous help. One of the things I've always been playing recreational, I should have had, a coach or someone that was, playing higher or better than me to bounce ideas off of. So I definitely think that you need to have three of the things I listed. The fourth is kind of a luxury, but they're all really important because it keeps you grounded, it keeps you honest, and it keeps you always working.
Yeah, I love that first point especially. I love the fourth one because it's kind of like a plug for me about coaching. But the first one I like more for more selfless reasons. Just the idea that people are dishonest with themselves and they might not even know that they're doing it. They're just they have this ego and they're so fragile, because they have these ideas that I'm a good player. I won in June and then I won in August and September, so I must be a good player. And if anyone tries to tell me that I'm not, that is such a piercing blow if it were true. That it's almost like the defense mechanism just comes up to solely guard against anyone suggesting that they're bad, and it's more important to pretend to themselves that they're a great player than it is to become a great player. And that is like a major roadblock as soon as that is your outlook straight away. And I think it's so common. Even with people who don't have big egos on the outside, they're still kind of trying to distort things to make themselves feel like they're doing better than they are, or they don't want to take accountability. Yeah. So really good point. And yeah, the coaching's a luxury. To an extent, but it's also something that, like, it will help you achieve. I think all of those things are interlinked. Like having not even a coach, maybe just a peer who you respect, someone that plays higher, someone that you can, like you say, bounce ideas off of, can help you achieve all of those things as well and help you be more professional. So
definitely.
Yeah. So the mental game then, it's fair to say that 2-5 Live is, technically speaking, not a difficult population to play in, right? Like
correct.
Most of the players are not getting coaching. They're not studying with online players who are using PioSolver and, getting to the nitty gritty of the game. Most of them are showing up, hoping to win, having a bit of fun, maybe trying to do it professionally, then giving up again, things like that. So it's the mental game really then that is the biggest challenge, right? It's not that we can't play better poker than most of that population. It's that we have to do it every day and keep our standards high. So why do humans struggle so much with that? Like, what have you noticed being a human being doing this full time? Why is it so difficult? And what have you been doing to take steps to make it easier?
I think from the mental aspect is that, human beings don't like a negative outcome consistently. So I really feel, it falls apart when you're losing every day. That basically, like, people like positivity. They like to be rewarded. They like to say good job. But when you're going in every day, to your, to what you're trying to do for a living, your job, and you're constantly, not getting rewarded, it really, it just takes a toll on you. I mean, people are competitive. They want to win. Like, everyone has a competitive streak in them. So I think when, they're getting unlucky, they're getting 2 outed, they're getting 3 outed, and they don't understand why, they can't take a step back and separate it and say, it's just, like we talk about, it's just one branch in game theory. Like, it's just one string of variance. It's just, it's going to pass. Like, you just have to, like, just breathe and hang on.
Yeah.
So, and for me, I mean, I struggle like everybody else. I mean, I definitely think I've gotten better. And, I told you earlier, like, a lot of times I'll just get up from the table, I'll go take a walk, I'll go take a breather, I'll go outside. And I just try to just clear my head and say, you know what, though, you just got unlucky. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You still have an advantage. You can still go back in there. Just take your time.
I think that's it. It's a bit like weeds growing in your garden. Here I go in another crazy metaphor, right, that just occurred to me. But it's like if you let the whole garden get, like, overwhelmed by the weeds, it's just a mess. And if you let, like, your mental game grow and grow and grow, like the tilt issues just continue to grow long term, not do anything about it, then it will overcome you and it will become too much and you'll form habits of just being a complete tilt head and you won't be able to cope with variance at all. But maybe that's it. Getting up, interrupting the tilt, not playing very long tilted sessions, just regularly weeding out that garden of the mental game so that it never gets to the point where it's unmanageable. That sounds pretty much like what you're saying, just in my ridiculous and
there really is no other way around it. I mean, like, it's a game of variance, right? It's a game of chance. I mean, no matter how good you are, there is going to be variance in it. So you just have to just kind of roll with it.
But what happens if you don't get up that one time? If you play on instead and you just go, you know what, I'll just play for another hour. I'll just play for another hour. I'll just play tomorrow without thinking about how I can improve my mental game. What happens if you start neglecting it and you're playing poker every day?
You're not going to play your best. You're probably going to play your absolute worst. And then what happens is that you start torching your bankroll.
And it spirals because I think your perception of how you're playing deteriorates along with how you're playing, if that makes sense. So you're not even truly seeing how well you're playing anymore. So yeah, these little interruptions that you speak of, like getting up, having a word with yourself, I just think it's so important to do that regularly. That's really good advice. So on that note, if a friend of yours, someone that you liked, right, not someone that you wanted to go broke, someone that you liked was just starting out with the game, what sort of advice would you provide if you wanted them to succeed?
Well, I said it earlier. I mean, I'll elaborate. I mean, obviously bankroll and being honest, but I just think preparation. I think whoever wants to really play for a living, you just really have to understand that you're gonna like it. I equate it to like being a day trader, right, in the stock market. Mm-hmm. There's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, but you have to be prepared. You have to know your craft. You have to keep, working. You have to, because you're dealing with, everything's money, right? So if you go to work today and you're a professional, online or live player, you could go to work and lose money. I mean, there's not many professions where that happens. Yeah. So, you have to put as many hours off the table as you do on. You just have to be prepared. I mean, understand what you're getting yourself into and understand that it's one big long session. I mean, you taught me that. I mean, it's one big long session.
Yeah. The concept of like variance, understanding what a month is or what an hour is or what a session is just ludicrous, right? We talk about all that all the time in our coaching together.
You also said to me, you don't really have a true BB per hour or BB per 100 until you played long stretches. And as you know, live, I don't see nearly as many hands as you do online. So,
yeah.
My true BB per 100 is going to be, is not going to be as true. I have to play probably a year and a half or 2 years, where an online player has to play 6 months.
Okay, so I'm a college kid, right, and I've just graduated, but I can't find a job yet. I've saved up a bit of money, maybe there was some wealth in my family or whatnot, I've played some poker, I've won a little bit recently, I feel positive about it, I've got the dream, I've got the kind of stars in my eyes that I want to be a pro. Should I do it? Or should I wait?
I think you should wait. I think you should. I definitely think you should, gradually get into it, because if you've never really done it professionally, or that is your only source of income, I think you're going to be, really disappointed when you run really bad for stretches where, like, you're not going to be able to handle it. So I would ease into it. I mean, young players, they probably truly don't, aren't properly rolled. But even if they are, they're going to be undisciplined and probably torture. They're going to blow up whatever money they have. So I definitely think easing into is the best option at first.
Yeah, and there's a divide, isn't there, between having a natural talent and then having the ability to apply that talent to a profession. That's a big thing.
It was so funny. I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about natural talent. I mean, I've been playing in my area for almost 20 years now, and there's a lot of players that have natural talent. There's a lot of players that are better than me, but they don't play anymore. They're broke because their bankroll management, their mental game was terrible.
Yeah.
But they had a true gift for the game, but they couldn't deal with the other aspects of it.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Like, it's a really powerful thing. I always tell people the story of when I was like, I think I was about 20 years old, and I was like really drunk with a friend I played poker with, and I just said, I'm the best player in the world. I am genuinely the best player in the world. And he was like, no, you're not. And I was like, no, I believe that I am. And I did at the time as well. Because I was a lot better than anyone I ever played with. But I couldn't apply any of it. My tilt problems were just through the roof. I'd bust roll after roll before I got established as an online player. So that's an example of that. I've been there firsthand. Talent is not enough if you don't have the professionalism and the discipline and the thick skin to keep coming back. So I agree with that. Just like thinking back to a younger version of myself, could never have handled being a professional poker player at all. Nowhere near. So ease into it and work on your mental game at the same time, for sure. Yeah. Next question is, I maybe kind of know the answer to this already, because like I work in online poker as well, and I work from home as a kind of freelancer, I guess, writing, teaching, playing a bit, making videos, whatever, coaching. And what took me a while to get used to was this idea that I didn't have a 9 to 5, that I wasn't just going to clock on to work and then clock off again and no one was going to structure my life for me. So I got a bit depressed when I first started doing it. I wasn't making great money yet. I was kind of just building my business. And I was like, I'll just sleep till 2 p.m. because I can do that. And then I'd wake up and think I've wasted the whole day. I'm never going to succeed at this. So how do you get around that problem, the whole not having a set schedule that anyone's going to hold you to?
I definitely, for me, personally, I try to treat it as my own business as you do. So I personally, when I play, I like to play, shorter sessions. So for me, I'd rather play 6 days a week, 6 to 7 hours than play 5 days a week and play 8 to 10.
Yeah. So
for me, for the most part, I like to play shorter sessions, more days, but I know people who will play 5, 10-hour days. So for me, it's, I guess I want to say whatever works best for you, but definitely you have to have some sort of structure. So like I said, I know guys who play 5 days. Myself, I like to play 6. So I just think you have to come up with a game plan that you take extremely seriously. Like I go to the gym at the same time every day. I eat breakfast at the same time every day. I go to the casino at the same time every day. And that, for me, really helps because it's really routine. It's really structured. Because all the freedom and flexibility you have of kind of being your own boss, you can get off track and get lazy. So you have to kind of build a little, a little house with 4 walls, and this is how we're going to do it every day. Yep. So that's how I approach it.
Definitely. Like, do you know what? It even throws me off sometimes. I'm at home, I'm trying to work, and like my girlfriend's off for the day when she isn't normally on a Tuesday or something, and she's just around speaking to the dogs or something. And I'm sitting there like, this has disrupted my normal Zen routine. It's ridiculous, but we're like creatures of habit, aren't we? We have to have the same kind of timings and regimes in order to stay on the horse, as it were. If you start getting up at random sporadic times, everything will fall apart quite quickly. And that would be my advice as well to anyone who's just about to, who is prepared to do this and is going to do this professionally, is like, actually pretend that there is somebody, or better yet, be your own boss and make yourself do things at certain times, because for all the freedom you get, like I think the biggest part for me is I can take a holiday whenever I want, right? And I'll do that. But when I'm not taking a holiday, like I'm pretty strict about when I have to work, and I think you do have to do that. So yeah, I totally agree. Now this is a question that is going to be like me needling you, me as an online player playing 4 tables of Zoom and clicking a button a second, to someone who plays 1 table of Full Ring live, right?
Yeah.
How do you possibly cope with it? I mean, it seems to me like most of the time you're literally just sitting doing nothing.
Oh, I mean, for sure. I mean, so it depends, right? So like I said earlier, I play with the same players every day. So if I'm at a familiar table with the same, the recs, the same regs, mm-hmm. I'll either listen to music. Sometimes I'll read an article. Sometimes I might watch something on Netflix, only because you play with these players every day and you know how they play. But if I'm at a table where I only know 2 or 3 players, then I'm just focusing on how they play. I'm trying to pick up, and any live reads that I can pick up on them, and I just pay attention. But yeah, I mean, it gets. I'm not gonna lie, Peter. Some days it gets really boring, especially when you're really card dead and you're folding and folding and folding for 2.5 hours. I mean, there's plenty of days where you don't make much. You play 7 hours and you folded 6 of them.
Yeah. Yeah,
but totally that's just all part of it. I mean, other times you get some live conversation, you get some live banter, depending on the table. I mean, some days it's really fun, and some days it really is an office job, and it's like sitting on a screen all day and being bored out of your mind. It just depends.
And then having less money than when you came to work, and that's the thing that really tells people, isn't it, about playing professionally? I did nothing all day. I got blinded away for like 8 hours, and I came home $100 later. I mean, it's just. Stop looking at your daily wins and losses. I guess it's the only thing you can do about that. But yeah, I mean, I think I would, if I played live, I would do the same. I would have to listen to music, watch something on Netflix, all this kind of stuff, because there's just so much downtime. And the price you pay for that is being in a game that's a lot softer and having a higher BB per 100. Just you have a much lower 100 hands per hour, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get through the last couple of questions here. So the other thing I want to ask you about is about working on your game, because another reason what I want you to be is basically the example of a guy who hasn't failed, who has succeeded at being a professional poker player for a year, right? The ones who fail, it's also going to be partly down to already thinking their game is good, not feeling they have to study, just going with their own preconceived ideas all the time. So what do you do off the table that has helped you, and what's helped you the most?
I mean, I'm like every other, poker player who plays for a living. I feel there's definitely days you struggle with, off the table studying because, you've been playing all day and then you wake up the next day and you have to look at things. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to talk about, what could I have done differently? So I always like to review, the hands I had the day before. I also, talk to, people that, I'm friendly with, that I play with every day. They'll send me a hand. I'll send them a hand, and so I just think communicating with the population in at your level. Obviously, you want to talk to people where you respect their game, or for the most part, they're winning players. But I mean, between that and then also obviously meeting with you every week consistently, that's basically how I try to get ahead, and I try to study, and that's what I do. I mean, but it is a battle. I mean. There's some days I feel, I'm trying to, get better and study, and I feel I accomplished nothing. And there's other days I'm like, wow, this makes sense. And I can go apply it, the next session. So It's a constant grind.
There's the variance of learning as well. There's also variance in that. Some days it goes in, some days it sticks, some days it doesn't. So variance in everything, not just the way the cards fall. Cool. So I really like this interview because it's very much like, it's the least glamorous poker interview I've ever done. And I mean that as a compliment, because it's literally just like realistically like, these are the problems that you face. These are the struggles of doing this professionally, and this is how you have to overcome them. So it's no bullshit like, oh, you're just a baller and you just go and you're set for life. I like it. Every day's a struggle, just like it is in any profession, in any career. You have to work really hard. So yeah, I think it'll be eye-opening for a lot of listeners. Final question. You've been doing this for a year now. You're pretty happy with what you've achieved so far, right?
For the most part, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but there's probably parts of it that you feel like if you could rewind a year and start again, that you could have improved upon. So what would you do differently?
I think first and foremost, I definitely think it's attitude. So not focusing on the results, but focusing on your play. I think second, I should have probably got a coach a little bit earlier than I did, and not trying to plug you, but it's the truth. I also think that we talked about this earlier, understanding that it is one long session and that the results today won't necessarily the results today won't affect the results tomorrow. Like it's just one big long, it's one big long session. And then lastly, just understanding that, you're playing for real money. Take it seriously. Don't dust off 3 buy-ins in one day, and that's 10% of your role. Like you really got to take it seriously because you are playing for real money, and that real money affects how you live every month. Yeah. So I definitely think those things is definitely things I probably would have refocused on, over a year ago.
Mm-hmm. And it's strange because you also, at the same time, you need to make sure you don't take it too seriously as real money in every single hand as well, because it is one long session. That's
obviously the catch, for correct.
Yeah, so you have to sort of balance the fact that this is my career. I have to be serious about it because everything affects my EV and my lifestyle and how happy I am and everything. But at the same time, if I think of that during a hand, I go insane and I make bad decisions due to the heightened emotion that will occur. So I guess it's having the professional outlook overall and then being able to ignore it while you're playing. Do the highest EV thing while you're playing. My voice just decided to stop working there in the middle of the podcast. I thought it was like being 13 when your voice started to break for the first time and you were embarrassed in high school. But anyway, thank you so much for the interview. It's been really enlightening just getting like a real hard-working player's take on how to be a professional poker player. And I think it should be a bit refreshing for people to listen to, certainly. And I hope the next year is as successful, more successful than this one, and we'll get you back on and find out how that went as well, and you can come back on the show at some point.
All right, Peter, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been great, man. Appreciate it. Okay, guys, I will be back with more podcasts. I'm not going to promise this time because every time I promise, I break the promise, so don't want to do that to you guys anymore. But just so you know what's new with me, I've got a new website. Well, same address, carrotcorner.com, but new look, new everything, been kind of pimped out a little bit, so check it out. And on there you will find both books, Grounder's Manual, which I'd recommend as a textbook to No Limit Hold'em if you're just starting out in the game, or even if you've been playing a while and want to build your fundamentals. And I would also recommend 100 Hands for anyone a little bit more advanced that wants to apply GTO kind of take on online 6-max cash or anything similar. In other words, everything you need is on my website. Check it out, private coaching forum, everything. Love to hear more feedback from you guys. And I will see you on the next Carrot Poker podcast, or I'd love to talk to more of you by email. Keep your feedback coming. This has been Pete, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye-bye for now.